Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss about interview preparation questions. That is about pharmacovigilance part 2. I hope you have gone through interview based questions, interview preparation questions part 1. Today we are discussing about part 2, which will be discussed about 5 more interesting and important questions which are being repetitively asked for interviews in pharmacovigilance. So without any delay, let's jump into the topic, which is interview preparation question part 2 in pharmacovigilance. So now I'll be discussing about these 5 questions in which ICH guidelines, the pharmacovigilance is being provided. So because we have already seen that what are the sub guidelines and main guidelines we have in ICH. So where we find the pharmacovigilance guidelines in ICH guidelines, and what is E2 efficacy guidelines 2, and different types of E2 guidelines, subsections in E2 or subchapters in E2. If they ask what is about ICH E2, how do you answer that? And the next question, define what is GVP, how many modules are there? And next question, what are the GVP modules that speaks about pharmacovigilance? Give some examples of GVP modules. How many modules are there in GVP, and explain about GVP modules. And last question, how do you define GCP and the ICH guidelines that describes about GCP and explain its purpose, what GCP does or how the GCP is important for conducting of clinical trials or conducting of clinical research. Now, the first question, in which ICH guidelines the information about pharmacovigilance is being provided? So where this pharmacovigilance guidelines comes from in ICH subsection and subchapter. Then ICH has 4 important chapters. One is Q, S, E, M. Already we have seen that in previous sessions. Quality, safety, efficacy, and multidisciplinary. In the third section of efficacy, we have E1, E2, E3, E4 subsections are there. In this, pharmacovigilance deal with E2. So if anyone asks the question that where is the pharmacovigilance coming in your ICH guidelines, then it is your ICH E2, which is efficacy 2 guidelines. So talks about the pharmacovigilance. E stands for efficacy in your ICH topic. So if anyone asks you in which ICH guidelines the information about the pharmacovigilance is provided, ICH E2 is the answer. And this provides the subsection of pharmacovigilance and guidelines used in pharmacovigilance. Now, my next question is interlinked with the ICH E2 guidelines. What are the subsections in this ICH E2? So now we need to remember ICH E2A to E2F. So E2A is the first chapter, E2F is the last chapter, E2A, B, C, D, E, F. So there are multiple sections, subsections in ICH, which speaks about the pharmacovigilance. So first, ICH E2A. So what does ICH E2A speaks about? So ICH E2A speaks about the guidelines for expedited reporting. Here, expedited reporting is as soon as possible reporting of the serious adverse event, which are unexpected and related to the possible drug adverse events. So now this speaks about ICH E2A, guidelines for expedited reporting of your clinical safety data management. So generally it is spoken about the clinical trial guidelines, that how you have to report in ICH E2A. Now coming back to ICH E2B. So the data elements which are used for electronic transmission of the ICSR, individual case safety report. So which are the data elements and data points used for transmission of electronic systems of ICSR, that is individual case safety report, spoken in ICH E2A. Now coming back to ICH E2B, the current version is R3. So which is spoken about E2C, which is spoken about the periodic benefit risk evaluation report. So we call it as PBRER. So ICH E2C speaks about PBRER, periodic benefit evaluation risk report. So which is called as PBRER, periodic benefit risk evaluation report. Now what is ICH E2D? So this is also guidelines speaks about expedited reporting. So expedited reporting, the guidelines for expedited reporting of your post-approval safety management. So it means that the drugs which are already in market, the drugs which are already pushed into market, so for them, the expedited reporting, the guidelines for expedited reporting of your post-approval safety management is your E2D. Now coming back to E2E, what is E2E speaks about? Is about pharmacovigilance planning. How do you plan a pharmacovigilance is your E2E. Now what is E2F? It is DSUR, Development Safety Update Report. So Development Safety Update Report, which is called as DSUR. So now ICH E2, the sub-guidelines are E2A, which is expedited reporting for clinical safety data management. E2B, which is data elements for transmission of electronic transmission of ICSR. E2C, PEBRAR, PBRER, Periodic Benefit Risk Evaluation Report. E2D, the guidelines for expedited reporting for post-approval data management. E2E, pharmacovigilance planning. E2F, DSUR, which is development safety update report. Now, the next question, what is GVP? So how many modules are there? So coming back to the word called as GVP. So like GCP, it is good clinical practice. GLP, it is good laboratory practice. GMP, it is good manufacturing practice. GDOP, it is good documentation practice. GVP stands for good pharmacovigilance practices, which is the most important guidelines which are being driven up to facilitate the performance of pharmacovigilance. So it makes sure that the pharmacovigilance are being run smoothly, and these are the best practices to be followed when you are conducting the pharmacovigilance. So these are the guidelines to make sure that the pharmacovigilance programs are conducted correctly and pharmacovigilance is performed correctly. So now this has 16 modules. How many modules we have is 16 modules we have in GVP, which is good pharmacovigilance practices. Now, what are some of the examples of modules of GVP, which is good pharmacovigilance practices, which speaks about the pharmacovigilance. So now GVP module 1, it speaks about pharmacovigilance systems and their quality management systems, or QMS. So quality management system comes into your module 1. Module 2 is system master file, pharmacovigilance system master file, how the documentation can be done and what are the folder sizes or folder structures which has to be created for pharmacovigilance system master file. And the third one is about pharmacovigilance inspection. Module 3 speaks about pharmacovigilance inspection. Module 4 speaks about the pharmacovigilance audits, how pharmacovigilance audits can be performed and how it has to be conducted. Module 5 speaks about risk management system. So RMS, risk management system, speaks about module 5. Module 6 is collection and management and submission of the reports of suspected adverse reaction to the medicinal product. So I have given some examples in GVP module. There are 16 modules. The GVP modules are used as best practices and guidelines and regulations for conducting the pharmacovigilance. As ICH E2, we have GVP modules also, which are used for conducting the pharmacovigilance. And we should remember some of the modules very important in pharmacovigilance, which is in GVP. So first one speaks about pharmacovigilance systems and their quality management system or quality systems. Module 2 speaks about pharmacovigilance systems master file. Module 3 speaks about pharmacovigilance inspection. Module 4 speaks about pharmacovigilance audits, and module 5 speaks about risk management systems. On module 6, collection and management and submission of reports of the suspected adverse drug reaction to the medicinal product. So these are some modules which are used in GVP. And coming back to GCP, the more four important sections are QSEM, which at the bottom line we have given. And how do we define GCP? GCP is International Ethical Scientific Quality Standard, which are used for designing, conducting, and recording and reporting of clinical trial that involves human subjects. And ICH current version is E2, but upcoming version is R3, which is in a draft position. Hopefully, the drafted positions will be changed into final version, which will come as ICH Guidelines E6R3. And its purpose is to achieve the greater harmonization worldwide and development of a nice and clear, approved, safe, effective, and high-quality medications in the world with respect to how the drugs can be tested in your human beings. Now, coming back to Clinosol, Clinosol is a training organization which gives training on clinical research, CDM, pharmacovigilance, medical writing, and regulatory affair and clinical SaaS with the complementary courses of communication, pharmacology, MS Office, and clinical data analysis and Power BI. And also, we give certifications also for experienced individuals. So these are the stats. We have crossed 141 placements for the year of 2023. These are the contact details of Clinosol. I'll be meeting you one more interview preparation question, that is pharmacovigilance set 3 tomorrow. So till then, thank you so much.